Back to the Run Spesh podcast. This one, another little bit of bonus content for your, what will probably be Monday morning run. We have a guest here with us all the way from Germany, the head product line manager for Run Puma, Todd Falker. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, good to see you with you. Super excited to connect, talk shoes, talk. I mean, I do have to say I really appreciated the prep that you put in. It makes me not want to sign up to run a marathon under your program because I think the details would really get me. But no, super happy to be here, talk running, talk shoes, and hear how it is down under.
Yeah, man. So we met about a year ago, probably slightly longer than a year ago. You flew over for Tarawera, which is an ultra marathon event here in New Zealand, and then we probably spent 5 or 6 hours just geeking in the Auckland office. So I'm excited for this chat just to continue on where we kind of left off because I feel like our time might have been cut short.
Hopefully it won't last 6 hours this time.
Well, hopefully it takes less time though than my actual Tarawera time, which was without question my slowest 100-miler ever. So I was very happy to get the cutoff under the 36 hours, but I think we'll be on good speed today. So
Good, man. Okay, so the way we like to do things on our podcast is, I guess, introduce the individual first, just to give them a little bit of background, try and make it a bit more personal rather than just robotic kind of questions. So I did some research kind of on your history, how you ended up where you are. Maybe do you want to fill us in on some of the blanks sort of from that 2009, 2010 period through to sort of 2018, 2019?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I kind of look at, let's say my career, my experience, and for me personally, like 3 phases. I mean, when I was young, getting into running, continuing to run both in high school and then in college, which in the US is an incredible opportunity to really, wear your school colors and be part of a group. And it was at that time I was studying business and I had actually an internship set up to go work in accounting. And then I was like, wait, I don't want to be an accountant. Like, how do I work with sports? How do I make this happy? And I was really lucky during my undergrad to be able to do 3 internships. Actually started at Saucony, went to Steve Madden, which is a little bit more fashion, but then ended up at Nike. And for me, that like learning about running, getting into it, learning that there are actually jobs in sports, was pretty awesome, pretty mind blowing, and I had good experiences in first international sales and marketing, then kind of business development, and then finally product development at Nike. And for me, that really opened my eyes as a young person, as an intern. I mean, it's crazy to think that was, I guess, 21 years ago now that I was like, oh, now I know what a product line manager is, and that's what I want to do. But then after the internships in school, went back for a master's, and then, yeah, I mean, 2008 was a pretty tough time economically in the U.S. and globally. So went and just started working retail, which it's one of the hardest jobs. I mean, you guys do it, of course, but it really teaches you with every customer that comes in day and day. And you have to deal with individual customers, of course, but over time, fitting 50 feet a day, 100, 500 a week, all that math. I think you really start to learn like what the different maybe segments of people and feed and consumers are, and then also what a lot of their challenges are. And I, working retail was so valuable for where I am today to be able to understand that in-store experience. And then, okay, as that, working retail turned into more of a tech rep for Smartwool, where I was traveling to about 400 stores in California, Arizona, Nevada, got me a lot of public speaking experience, right? Doing tech clinics, and then instead of just focus on my store and my customer, seeing a wide variety of stores and what their different challenges were, and maybe different distributions or different customer demographics, let's say. And then lastly, kind of going from there, realizing, okay, I've done a good retail, I've done some marketing, I've done sales and been in accounts. Really, then honing in for me at that point in my career and saying, I love product development, and that's what I want to do with my career as I go forward. And then yeah, waiting for the right opportunity there.
It's amazing. It's sort of I guess it's nice to have the balance. You get the book work in, and then you get the real life stuff in, because nothing prepares you for that grumpy customer who
No.
rolls in the door at 9:05. They've been sitting in their car starting to fume about the little hole they've got in their big toe from a pair of Smartwool socks that they bought 3 weeks ago.
They gotta return.
Yeah, so
And
yeah.
they've like gotten themselves amped up to say, because they're, worried about whether you'll turn around and say something. So they're like, I want this. You're
Yeah.
like, okay.
And it gives you a great appreciation for how people have spent their good hard-earned money as well. So, you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I make the best possible product? So there's quite a lot of similarities between me and you. I was saying to Anna before you jumped on, like there's a lot of similar sort of, you ended up doing what you're doing, I'm ending up what I've done, but it does give you a massive appreciation for the whole thing. And you kind of can't get frustrated at anyone because you understand what everyone's going through at different sort of particular times.
Yeah, I think so. And the more that we learn, and the more that whether it's making shoes on for a global brand or trying to fit somebody for the perfect shoe in your store, I get a lot of people like, hey, like what shoe is right? What are we doing? Blah, blah, blah. It always starts with the questions. And I think I was doing some training with our global retail team last week, and they were like, well, how do I pick this shoe versus this? I said, 17 questions, right? Like how much running is the customer doing? What injury history have they had? What blah, blah, blah. And even though those are questions that we would say that we ask to individual people when we're trying to fit shoes on them, when we're building global product and a product line that started as 4 shoes and is now somewhere between 15 and 20, depending on how many little small versions or drops that you count, it starts to get to be a lot of shoes. And then it's actually kind of the same thing where it's like, wait, like which shoe is for which person? And for me and the team to be able to look at, let's say, the different buckets of people, what they need either for themselves or what they like from an experiential standpoint in a shoe, and then being able to solve those or have a product that fulfills that. And whether you're in the store going in the back room and grabbing it, or on my side actually building it from scratch, it really just all starts with asking those questions and then listening and then being able to kind of fill what that need is.
Nice.
There's quite an impressive background with all of your Fleet Feet stuff and then your study, college running. But what you do now, for anyone who might not be completely familiar, what exactly does a product lead at a major brand like Puma involve?
Yeah, great question. And I've been with Puma 7 years now, and before this was 4+ years with Ultra. So I'm maybe not necessarily the typical, and maybe what I can describe a little bit more is what a normal product line manager is, how that kind of role works, and then can talk a little bit later about kind of my specific role. But yeah, from a product line manager standpoint, the role is really to be the hub of communication within the organization. So at smaller companies, you'll mostly be communicating with sales reps and people that are doing the selling and being in the stores. Hey, what do we need? What trends are they seeing? And then that kind of originates like really consumer insights and market demand really initiates what we would call a product brief. And that's where we say, hey, okay, there's this hole in our matrix, right? There's this gap in the market. There's a customer need and there isn't the perfect product to build it. How do we do that? I think those insights, which can come from a lot of places, like they can certainly come from us, where I'm like, man, I really need this and I don't have this. Can I make this? But you can't just think about yourself, right? You have to think, are there hundreds? Are there thousands? Are there even more people that need this kind of same thing? So the inspiration for where any initial new product can come from can really be for anywhere. But then for briefs, I would really put them in 2 categories. So there's the consistent briefs, right? When we do velocity 1, 2, 3, now we're launching velocity 4. That's kind of a different thing where it's like, okay, what are the small improvements and what's maybe the feedback again from the store level, as opposed to a totally new or a TN that we would say, where you're like, hey, there's just a big gap in the market and we're going to make something nobody's ever seen before and try to exceed their expectations. So just to continue maybe, so that's maybe the brief and where that comes from, which is the main responsibility of a product line manager. And you deliver that brief to a design team and to a development team. And I think those 2 pieces or 3 pieces, the triad, really, really works well. From a PLM standpoint, our responsibility is to really know the market, what will work, and yeah, what's been maybe done before, mistakes, etc. From a design standpoint, I think people know what shoe designers do, right? But it's really advancing materials, advancing visuals, making shoes look fast or look cushioned or look a certain way, which is a very, very highly skilled role for sure. And then the third part, which probably doesn't get as much publicity, but is equally important, if not one of the most important, is actually the development side of the business. Those are the partners that are taking 2D or 3D shoes and turning them into actually living, breathing products, right? Where it has a last, it has a shape, it has a fit, it has a material, it has an execution, and I think also like durability and quality control, which nobody cares too much about until they have an issue, right? Is really the responsibility of the developer. And certainly I would put like material science when it comes to foams and a lot of those things, rubber compounds, that's really in the development. So it really is a triangle. We really work really, I would say, well together as a triad to each bring our unique background from a schooling standpoint. I mean, I don't have a design degree. I don't have a material engineering degree. I just like shoes, and I'm able to kind of bring my piece to the pie.
I found that super interesting, having spent some time with the guys in Boston at Puma HQ, how much internal respect they have for each other, but then also how much they drove each other on. So it wasn't a case of just settling, maybe from the design team, they might be getting a little bit of a push in the back from the research and development team, and then vice versa, the design team saying, hey, we want to make this, but we need a material to do it with. And then they're going back and they're going back to the lab and doing chemistry and trying to figure this shit out. And it was just meeting the guys and just understanding that sort of symbiotic relationship that's sort of happening at the bottom of the triangle, I guess. And then you're trying to push them both along and maybe make sure they get along like siblings, I guess.
I don't know who's at the top of the triangle in that example you just gave. I think it's a flat triangle, actually.
A flat triangle, yeah.
Well, it's on its side because there's good balance.
No, that's good. So I want to roll us back, because Puma, I guess, went through a stage of maybe disappearing a little bit from running. It's always been super strong in football and I guess the European, sports. But in 2018, 2019, there was starting to be some like chatter around, and I would like to think I was an ear to the ground kind of guy. And there was stuff starting to happen, and early prototypes, deep dark Reddit threads, all the places of the internet that no one wants to go. And I reached out to at the time, our country manager, and I said, hey, what's the internal chatter? What's going on? Because I feel like you guys are probably 2 seasons away from hitting it big. I had that feeling, which doesn't normally let me down. So my question for you is, they obviously decided to relaunch running with this new product. How does that conversation start, and who's in the room?
Yeah, it's a great question. And from a historical standpoint, before 2018 or before we launched, let's say Nitro, the very, very end of 2020, we usually talk about 2021, but we'll get to that story in a minute. I think the 12 years before 2020, in 12 years, we had 6 new product launches. Every 2 years, there was something new. And some of them are actually good. Like, I mean, sometimes I have fun quizzing people how many of FOSS and Complete and Mobium and Speed and all those things do you remember? Some of those shoes were actually good and worked. But even the good ones, none of them were consistent. So I think that's where we're always, every 6 months, we sit down for briefing. We say, how are we doing? How's the business? How's the product line? What do we need to do to improve? We do that every June and every December right now as it is. We continue, and we will. But I think at that time we looked down. I had actually just started at Puma. I did my first shoe, which was called Ultra Ride. Actually, full disclosure, I briefed €160 P-back like plated shoe. And we talked about it in our internal meetings. People said, well, I don't know if Puma can sell such a high-end running shoe. And we ended up making a €90 shoe called Ultra Ride that had a plate, and it was like wrapped up. And if you remember also, the Olympics were supposed to be in 2020. So the Ultra Ride was going to be the big Olympic shoe and on the podium and all of that. And it was okay. It didn't get much traction, and the Olympics actually ended up obviously getting pushed back to 2021. But we had some changes in management and senior leadership at the time. Aaron Longan, who's done some podcasts and has some good content out there as well, took over basically all of running, training, fitness, as we call it, including the essentials, the lower price line. And as we were looking at the running line, we had kind of a fresh new team. I had just joined, like I said, a few months before. Dan Woodward was there. There were a few of us, and we said, okay, so from a PLM standpoint, like how are we doing? And we looked at it and we said, we're not doing good. Nothing's really working. Like, I'm sure you haven't heard of the Ultra Ride, which, I don't know. It wasn't that great of a running shoe. It was an EVA. It was VizTech. You can see the plate. it was fine, but it wasn't like a real serious running shoe that I think that you and I and the three of us would appreciate. And so I think that kind of clicked in our brain as having change in leadership, change in management, and just looking at the line and saying what we've done isn't good enough. We needed to start over. And those two things I said, let me repeat them. None of the shoes were best in class, and none of our product lines were consistent. And those have been the two pillars from the beginning that we started with and that we continue to this day. And so I think that's where, even as we said, okay, so nothing's working, we're going to start anew, but we're not just going to make the seventh and then make a new product line later. We're going to do it right, and we're going to say really, really, let's say long term consistently with this. So the good thing was then we had complete freedom to utilize everyone on the team's background. I mean, I would say my 20 years of working in and around footwear as well, being at Nike, at Saucony, working retail, all these things. And when I think about best in class, I don't know, if there's a runner down the street and they're maybe faster than you, or they're the best in the neighborhood, you can figure out like what's their training and you could maybe match that, right? Or use any example you want of like matching what other people are doing or what is best in class. And for me, as we were rethinking foams and rubbers and uppers and all the categories, even it's like what's the trends, what's best in class? Let's zoom right to best in class. You actually, when you're building a product line, don't have to do steps. You can just make the best shoes. So that's what we really did with the intent of the first four shoes, but really focusing on Nitro from the very beginning and recognizing that the benefit, the good stuff when it comes to performance running shoes is actually the midsole foam, right? And that's where Nitro really came in. Fun fact, it was actually called X Foam before it was Nitro, before we had a name. There's still, I have some samples in a warehouse somewhere that just say X Foam. But our goal there was to say, hey, EVA is old, EVA is mostly dead, and we want to do everything advanced, everything new and beyond that. So we quickly identified raw materials as a place that we wanted to exceed. But then we learned about supercritical processing, because some shoes were saying they can make you run 4% faster, and there were a lot of things happening, really, really in that time frame. So that's where kind of the supercritical foaming came from. And then for us, Nitro being the hero in the end, using the best raw materials, the best process, putting that together, and then kind of taking a stand to say, we are going to put our best foam, we're going to put Nitro in every shoe. If it's a performance running shoe from Puma and it says Nitro, it's going to be a good running shoe.
Do you feel like that easy communication was the first breakthrough point? I guess you talked about consistency, and if we pick on Nike because they've been good at it for 30 years, if it says Zoom on it, you know what it is. If you see gel on an Asics, you know what it is. So is that kind of your thinking? How do we start creating that consumer awareness of these are our running shoes and these are our not running shoes? Was that the thought?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many parts and pieces to it. The brands you mentioned, many more do a really, really good job. But as good as some of them do, they're also all not perfect, right? And I think that's where from our standpoint, from a technology standpoint, let's use best in class technologies. That's easy. Then I would say looking at, let's say, the silos of shoes of, okay, everybody needs a regular everyday cushion shoe. You need maybe a stability shoe. One of the first things we actually did was identify not only the trend in plates, but kind of peek into the future. If you remember around that time, a few brands, like less than 5, had a plated racing shoe, and almost none had an everyday trainer. And that's really where the name Deviate for that shoe came from. And what we were doing was different, was putting a plate in a daily trainer. That was almost not done before. And so we were really kind of deviating from the norm, which is where the name of that shoe came from. And it was our hero and our highlight, and it continues to be to this day.
It's interesting because you've made it when customers are walking into the shop and they say, can I have a Puma Nitro? They don't know what the next 3 things are. They just say, oh, I've had a Nitro. It's like that to me was the moment. And it probably happened about 2 years ago, so 4 seasons ago. It was like, I've loved my Puma Nitro. And you go, okay, great. Which one?
And then they'll be like, oh, it was pink.
Yeah, it was pink and blue.
Yeah. Well, that's okay, because we both worked retail. We know that experience. We know the number of people that just say, oh, I have the Asics gels. And that's okay. Different level of consumers and different people have different levels of knowledge and experience. And, I'm kind of reading your script ahead. I mean, one of the questions you had for me was, so what is TPEE that you started for? What does it stand for and all that? And like I said, I am not a chemical engineer. One of the fun things is moving from the US to Germany a year ago. I actually do now sit with the innovation team. And there's a guy to my left named Matthias that knows more about foams than anyone on this planet. And so I generally memorize I know it's a thermoplastic and a, polyurethane, ester, ether, whatever. But like at some point you just learn this is good and this is old and this is new and can kind of move at that. And I think that's where it's really working as a team and recognizing that some people have those experience. And as I'm doing retail training or sharing any sort of information, what I always try to do is ask those questions, figure out what somebody knows, and then give them the next level of things that they're ready for, right? And we talk so much about, well, maybe ingredients, but there's really features and benefits. And maybe features is something that we talk about. Okay, nitro is a feature, but the benefit is what really people care about. Is it light? Is it cushy? Did I like it? Do I want to buy it again?
Absolutely. You want me to ask the next
I'm-
question? No, that's okay. We digress from the script into something Todd and I did for 6 hours in Auckland. That's right. So a relaunch, right?
Yeah.
I've been a part of trying to turn a Titanic type situation and trying to get things moving and going again.
Yep.
Obviously, for you guys, it's a massive global mission, right?
Yep.
What were some of the initial sort of hurdles, conversations
Yeah.
happening in that room, and how did you get from this is what we think we can to where you are now in sort of that relaunch period?
Yeah. That was one of the most exciting parts. And when I was trying to think ahead of like the challenges we had, I almost wanted to say we didn't have any challenges. We had full support from the internal Puma team, from our CEO down to Aaron, as I mentioned, the head of the department, and everybody. I think we did a good job, especially Aaron, of bringing a lot of people along for the conversation with us. So when other stakeholders know what's going on and get to have their input, then they're already bought in. But even from retailers, it wasn't like, oh, we don't want Puma. It was like, great, we know Puma, we know the cat, we love it. We just need you guys. To be honest, when we traveled, we went to 5 different countries with the first product line, and we went to Colorado to the main DC1 performance running retailer in the U.S. They said you only need 2 things: you need simple, good shoes, and you need people to sell them. You need tech reps. That was actually kind of the one of the main messages, and some of the complicated things of shoes we actually ended up taking off. But it is and was in some way a little bit simple. And I think as we started building really, and I mean some of your questions too, like Puma is a great company. I mean, we're multi-billion, right? We know how to build shoes. We have great supplier relationships. We have a lot of that. I think it was really taking the expertise of the people that have it in different places, really focusing and harnessing it in the right direction, and then getting us all on board and moving in the same direction. And we talked a little bit before about like PLMs. Let's say that would be for like an inline team. So that's the normal range. Let's say velocities, magnifies, magmaxes, etc. There is also at Puma and at some of the larger companies an innovation team, which can look more into advanced concepts and do different things. And I think that's where we're working really closely with the innovation team, more on materials, more on the foam specs, and then specifically into race day is one of the things that I would say really set us apart.
And did you feel like, because you kind of entered in that, it was clever. I don't know what you guys call it internally, but we call it the opening door shoe, and
Yeah.
the one that leads you to the top and the bottom. So you came in with Deviate, and did
Yeah.
you feel like that was the shoe that created the open door, and then you built the range around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 3 key categories of a lightweight shoe, of a performance or plated shoe, and a neutral cushion shoe. I mean, in retrospect, it was probably obvious, but I think if you were creating your own product line, you would start with something similar from there. As I did think about it, there were 2 or 3 challenges that did come up. One was, if you remember, we were launching around the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. We were in a global pandemic at the time. I actually did our very, very first shoe sales in person. I went with, I think it was around, well, yeah, no, it was 54 pairs from Boston, drove down to New York. We did an event at the flagship with the Mile High Run Club, but COVID was just getting started. It was September, right? It was less than 6 months. Everybody was wearing masks. Actually, the first Deviate, we did kind of a weird collar closure where it was like more bound. And in the first wear test, we had about 40% of people getting pretty severe heel blisters. And it was interesting taking these shoes down and literally a couple of days before getting this news of, hey, somebody got blisters. Yeah, a few more people did. Oh, there are a lot of blisters.
Oh
So it was
no.
funny to sell those shoes, and we ended up giving, I think, a lot of those people gift cards and basically giving them their money back or giving them free shoes. But yeah, there were certainly little challenges. But even then, once we solved that from a development standpoint, Deviate right away won Runner's World in the US Editor's Choice, right, for best running shoe. We were really able to turn a lot of those things. And then obviously the Olympics being in 2021, we did our big global launch in February, had the Olympic medal with Molly in the marathon a couple months later, and really just hit a great timing.
Do you think that the delay of the Olympics by 1 year aligned quite nicely with the launch of the new product?
It couldn't have been better, but I mean, I need to give, Molly's side a lot. I mean, the shoe worked, but she ran her face off in a hot day in Sephora, I think even further north of Tokyo. Very, very talented runner, actually also a very like technical shoe nerd, I would say. And I mean, everybody knew Puma. They kind of maybe thought we made running shoes, but they didn't know. But once we had a really, really good product, I actually would say that there were two avenues of requests coming in. One was people saying, hey, I've heard of Puma, I've heard the shoe's good, can I try the new shoe? And literally the other half was people saying, hey, I saw Molly. Can I get the Molly shoe? What is Deviate? What is Deviate Elite? It was really, really fortunate also that Deviate and Deviate Elite kind of shared that name, as you were kind of saying. But it was really, really a great launch. I will say too, in the first 4 years, 21 to let's say 24, 25, our goal was really just to make good product and get that going. And I think, as we would call it in phase two, we've really accelerated a lot of things in terms of our marketing. I'm sure you guys have seen, the Go Wild and Get High and all those really, really fun and intriguing marketing campaigns. And even Project 3, where we're putting literally hundreds of runners in marathons with the best shoe that's proven and seeing really good results. And yeah, we know we're still kind of towards the beginning, but we're feeling a little bit more in the middle now, seeing really, really good traction, and that feels good after a lot of years of effort and trying to build something new.
Yeah, I feel like what you did was didn't follow too much and tried to create something new and different. I think what we're seeing, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on our weekly episodes, was there's a bit of stagnant at the moment in some of the stuff across some other bigger brands. And I think you could have come in easy and just gone, oh, well, we'll just copy a bit of that, copy a bit of this, and I'm not going to name other brands that are doing that. But it is happening, and you've kind of come over and above and gone, okay, we're going to try some new stuff. And I'm going to ask you a slightly sideways question, because we've seen some prototypes of Alphafly 4 that look a little bit like the extenuated toe of a fast start. I don't know how much you can talk on that, but is that is that a compliment, or do you get a bit frustrated?
I don't know the author that said imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I mean, look, it also there's a lot of really, really smart people at a lot of smart brands that are doing their best. I will give a lot of credit to the design team at Puma for really pushing boundaries, looking. And I mean, we actually have an independent, a Puma sports science team that looks at athletes and consumer insights and can build shoes from there. There are a lot of brands doing a lot of good things. I'm really happy that with Puma, our shoes are unique. People are liking them. I mean, they're saying, wait, some other brands. There was a nice Instagram posting. Some other brands, when you mentioned that might be copying us, aren't leading the charge anymore. And we know with Fast R3, we have the fastest shoe in the game right now, without question. We know we're doing our thing, and I feel really, really good that the product is good, the marketing is good, the regional and support in the regions are really, really good. We're I think hitting on all cylinders, even though we still have, of course, some ways to get better.
It's the one. So I'll pull us back because I kind of digress. We start talking about foams and stuff. I get excited. I can't help it. So you kind of have concept, and then I guess in the beginning, maybe the research and development stuff. So the materials that you have available to you, you've got to, one, figure them out, two, find suppliers that can make them with good quality and the amount that you want. how quickly and accurately does that process kind of happen from you guys saying we're going to do this, and then now we need these, and then the product starts flowing? How does that work?
Yeah, not to draw another triangle, but for us, we have, the product team that sits in Boston, design development, PLM, the innovation team in Germany, and then we have a really, really strong team, mostly sitting in Vietnam, but some in China and Taiwan as well, that have really, really strong connections over there. And it really, really was a team effort. It's not like Aaron and Dan and I said, we want a good foam, and then it just shows up, right? Like we needed to communicate to those partners. We needed to do some research. We needed to figure out, we partnered with multiple universities in the US and Asia, and in Europe as well, to see, hey, what are the chemical engineers working on? Like, how are they foaming different, thermoplastics, different things that can actually give more rebound. And then even once you have something or somebody says, hey, here are my stats and my specs around this foam, you still have to test it, right? You have to put the shoe in the lab, and then you have to put it on real people, which is the final thing. And I mean, I think the team did a great job of very quickly finding 2 or 3 really, really strong options for us. And I'm so happy that myself and the team, we made the decision to go with, let's say, an elevated, a better than EVA. There are a lot of brands doing even supercritical EVA, which gets you lightweight, but doesn't give you that responsiveness. And so, yeah, I feel like we made the best choices there for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. And the durability of the TPE is far greater,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is what you want. You want people getting value for money, even though maybe they don't buy shoes as regularly. I think
yeah,
the only brand I've felt that has done a good job with EVA is probably Mizuno in the last 6, 8, 12 months, like getting that mix right. But the TPE has been like we've had some of the guys get 1,600K out of a pair of Magnify twos,
yeah,
and when
yeah.
they're cheap runners running 100 miles a week, like that's a phenomenal lifespan for a
No,
shoe.
it's true. And 50 years ago, most shoes were using PU, just polyurethane. It was heavy, but it was kind of the first rebound. EVA came out, and it's actually a pretty good material. Like it has really, really good cushioning properties, and it's easy for, let's say, the suppliers to kind of work with. Um, but no, the TPE that we used at launch was definitely the next level, giving you the softness and the responsiveness. But I will say we've started to use more materials in other shoes beyond that. And I think a lot of people know P-backs, which was in a lot of race day shoes. We did some race day shoes with P-backs, but we've even started to take down and put P-backs in our everyday shoes, like what other brands is their best in race day, put that in everyday. And I've even started to use some new aliphatic TPUs for a race day, and even in a few takedowns for everyday running as well. So the materials continue to advance, and that's okay. We leave that to the experts. I think as we brief a shoe, we design the shoe, we get the foam. That last step is really the fit and wear team, where they're sending out 20 pairs every round, so a couple rounds, and getting that feedback. Hey, does this feel like a good shoe? If they have the Velocity 3, does this feel like what we want the Velocity 4 to be? And really, yeah, listening to consumer and feedback, and the runner and the running stride, right? That's really what we're solving for at the end of the day.
And I can confirm for our listeners, the wear testing room at HQ is wild. I can't remember the lady's name, and I feel really bad for that because she was great, and I was geeking out in there because she had,
Yep.
stuff we probably can't even talk about, but it was, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And then they're all stacked
Yeah.
up in sizes, and then she's got the forms filled in, and it stunk. I was like, you must be getting paid, or you need to wear a mask when you go in there. Like, it's pretty amazing to see just the subtle changes you guys make, and then
Yep.
send them back out to those same people, and then just shaving off some flaring, adding some flaring, maybe changing the heel counter ever so slightly, and then sending those out to different people. Well, it was really amazing to chat to her, and I guess she's at the coalface of kind of getting that information together.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
As
Oscar,
the
her
product,
name.
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
can
You
I
go.
just give a quick?
Yeah,
Yep.
Her name is Amanda. She's awesome.
that's right.
I couldn't do that job with smelly shoes, and yeah, she's part of Bob's team on the development side, where they're doing 3D CAD, they're doing fit and wear, they're doing like the materials and the specs, and if we're like, oh, we kind of like this mesh, but is there a thinner and stronger one? they do so many things. But yeah, that's it's not always the most thankful job, but we should give them a big thanks right now. So
Oh yeah,
sorry, I just
I'm
needed
sorry.
to get
No, you're good. I'm
sorry.
sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot her name. I spent like 90 minutes with her. I think is the most attention she'd had that day. I was just so fascinated. But anyway, I'll let Anna ask a question.
As the product lead, how much input do you have? So do you go to the research and development team and say, hey, we need a shoe to fill this purpose, or we've got these technologies, what can you do with it? Or do they come to you and say, we've got this, how can we develop it, kind of thing?
Yep. Yeah, it can definitely come from both ways. Certainly one of my job and Connor and Damien and Dan, the really the core of what we would call the Run Squad on the PLM side. We have our ears to the street. We know what's going on. I mean, you saw that competitor shoe. We also see that. We have group chats. We're like, hey, did you see this? Hey, this is going on. But at the same time, we have our ear to the market. And like I mentioned before, there are people that have their ear to the scientifics and biomechanic conferences and the material science conferences and those other things that are going quite a bit different. And so maybe to answer your question that I didn't dodge but promised to come back to a little bit ago. So before, for 6 years, I was a team head of the product team sitting in Boston, so doing like kind of that everyday inline. My new role is, I like to see it kind of as a start to finish and a little bit more holistically as a way to tie those pieces together. So I still am reporting to Boston, but I sit with the actual innovation team in Germany. So if we do a velocity 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 or Magnify, whatever, this to the next version, that will almost always just go through, let's say, the inline team. But the innovation team, we can do maybe more advanced concepts, or if we're like, hey, this thing is 2 pieces and we want it to be one, do this. Or, hey, we want something totally new that's maybe not on the usual 18 or 24 month timeline, but we want to plan a little bit further out. Maybe it is a 3-year. That's where there's, engineering experts, design experts that can really push the envelope. Materials. I know I talk a lot about foams, but I love foams. Maybe it comes through in the camera. So for me, being able to sit with them, do some briefs on some really far out shoes, have that knowledge, and to be able to give the people that are working really far into the future a target of a date or a timeline to say, hey, you're working on this thing, but we could actually sell this many at this time and actually bring it to market. So sitting with the innovation team, still being connected with the inline team. And then the last thing, sitting in Europe, is actually to be able to be really close to, the major European accounts and countries, Germany, UK, Nordics, France, etc., to see a lot of retailers in person. And Oscar, I'm so glad that you took the trip over, that you came to our head offices, got to, see the product teams and really be a part of it. From what I hear is we are one of the few, if not only, brands where retailers have direct access to the product team. Sorry. And even so far as when we met, I mean, I came out, I was at your store, right? Like I was doing a retail visit with Matt Sparkman, who crewed me all 34 and a half hours of Tara Wear as well. Sparky, got to give you the monster shout out. But yeah, we did a really intensive, basically 10-day trip of Australia, hit Melbourne, hit Sydney, and then hopped over to NZ, as you call it. And ended, of course, the trip with a reek. But so I'm in Europe working with the regional accounts, and then the last thing is just supporting with tech reps and training. So making sure that everybody at Puma, if they're working at a Puma branded store in India or any place, that they know the best possible material. So building online modules with our training team. Literally did a training call yesterday with several hundred internal Puma, and then today did it actually with several hundred retailers as well, where they're hearing the latest on Velocity, on the new Magnify, on the new Voyage, and hearing that directly from us. So I like to see it as innovation inline, regions, direct to consumer, like really covering all the things that they have the best product knowledge possible.
It was pretty cool sitting in the room with Aaron and Dan and them asking questions. I guess maybe it's a little ego stroke, but it does make you feel important, or they are listening to kind of what you're doing. And Sparky's there next to me on my left, and we're discussing the problems we have being at the end of the world. We're trying to be on time with global releases. We're trying to get product down here. And obviously there's been an exponential growth. I think it's like 500% down here. It's crazy. And trying to like keep up with the business side. I mean, we can geek out about shoes, but if we can't get enough to sell, then it doesn't work, because we sell shoes so you guys can keep innovating. It's kind of like this symbiotic sort of circle of stuff. So I did appreciate that. And I mean, I've nearly been doing this 20 years, and it's the first time I've probably had access to, I guess, the top of the food chain, or as close to the top of the food chain as you can get, without doing something wrong. It was cool. It was really fun. You go. Yep.
I will promise you as well, that is not lip service. Like, we get recaps, whoever's not in the room, we take notes, we analyze the product opportunities, and we respond to it. I mean, some of the shoes on the wall behind me are direct. Oh, we had that side meeting. This customer said this, and we built this thing. That actually really is the process, and it works. And I'm thankful that you were able to be a part of it and really see it and feel it firsthand.
It was really cool. Now, I want to talk about Puma Grip, because I think let's talk about Puma Grip, and no one else gives a shit but me. So this is all for me. I think we can talk about foam, we can talk about the branding on the shoes, we can talk about people recognizing Nitro, all of those things, but rubber is the thing that hits the road, right? And what you guys excelled at was creating a product which people trusted. Now, New Zealand is unique in that we have road and trail within 2.5 km of each other everywhere. And so people are always looking for this unicorn shoe, which doesn't exist, but some people have got pretty close. And my question about Puma Grip is, obviously you kind of have different versions on different products, lighter weight ones, heavy duty ones. How did you, I guess, develop Puma Grip? Who did you develop it with, and how do you apply different, I guess, additives to those materials to get the expected outcome on the different footwear?
Yep. Yeah, when we were resetting 2018, 2019, we wanted to do the absolute best everywhere. And okay, Nitro we did and we kept it. But some things we actually maybe tried too hard. I mean, like I said, that one retailer, they looked at our shoe and there was laces and they were going through these extra loops and these holes, and the guy was, he like pulled it and he like couldn't tie the shoes, and he goes, guys, I know you think you're smart. I can't tie the shoe. Like, simplify. So we over-index even in fit systems, and we tried to in rubber. We worked with really closely with let's not name them, but a major tire brand that has, you know, tires in F1, etc. That's top tier. Every initial shoe, I should say, we opened a Puma Grip version, and we opened with this tire company. And you know, the origin was, we said, okay, we can look at them. We also want to do our own homework and research. We have new material science when it comes to foams. Why not also in rubber? So the team in Vietnam and a guy named Pyrouche, who I've shook his hand and taken pictures with him, and I go, you are the godfather of Puma Grip. We have people that actually just do things like that. And he kind of came up with his own formula that was proprietary for us. We opened our shoes with the outsoles in Puma Grip and in this tire rubber company, and flat out, we just won. Like, the metrics were better, the performance was better in the lab, and then we put it on, went out on the road, and the performance was just better. So sorry to, you know, the major companies that want maybe more money and want to be a part of the process. We still get hit up every 6 months by a brand saying, hey, we know you're briefing soon, like, do you want to use our rubber? And we're good. Like, we've got Puma Grip. We have designers that really know how to put the right lug shapes on shoes. And I think, to your point, like, there are different design choices made sometimes, right? Like, you can put really thin and flat rubber on it. I mean, I would say the Fast R is maybe one of the thinnest and flattest, or you can really kind of beef it up. That really is based on the shoe, the intended usage, and then the life expectancy that we want to have. And it's all choices. Fast Air 3 was 100% designed to be the fastest shoe in the history of the world. And it's not designed to last you 10 marathons. It's not going to go forever. It's going to give you enough training and then enough performance on a couple race days, more than one, but not 10, like I said, to just give you just what you need start to finish. And that's a design decision, and that's a product and usage and intent decision. Could we make the shoe more durable? Yes. Would it be heavier and not as fast? Absolutely, right? So it's just making choices. but Puma Grip is yeah, from the very beginning has basically been the hero of the entire running reset, and it's just kind of this fun little thing that not many people care about, but yeah, we're really happy with it, and we're going to continue there.
Nice.
Continuing with the tech side, midsole materials. So you guys use a variety of materials across your different franchises. Could you walk us through these different midsole materials, like those in Deviate, Magnify, etc., why they are used differently in certain products, and what qualities you look for?
Yep. Yeah, that's a pretty easy question. So the why is always about what we want the shoe to deliver in terms of performance. So when it comes to Magnify, we want to magnify your experience with a little bit more cushioning. When it comes to Velocity, we want an everyday daily trainer that has a good amount of cushioning but helps you run every day feeling a little bit better and a little bit maybe faster, but still just everyday training. And when it comes to race day of course, it's all about being focused on going as fast. Yeah, to be honest, I think that was one of the mistakes we made in the past, was having sometimes too many details and too much crazy. And what I really, really love, and I'm gonna grab, doesn't matter which shoe real quick, but what I really, really love is that we have Nitro and then we have Nitro Elite. We're gonna stay really, really easy, really, really consistent there. We share maybe more than other brands when it comes to compounds and some of the background and the stories. And I've mentioned here what some of those materials are. But even when you look at thermoplastics and the orientation of them would be called a Young's modulus, and now we're getting really deep. There's a lot of different plastics, and even if somebody says TPU, ETPU, TPEE, like whatever the alphabet soup is, you still don't know exactly what it is because there's so many variations, percentages, and also, I mean, people use the food analogy a lot. Just because you have, I don't know, spinach and sausage, doesn't say how long you cook it, how what the actual recipe for making, let's say, the final meal is. So it's way, way too complex of a world to go into, and I just want to reiterate again how happy we are that we're so focused on Nitro and on Nitro Elite, and consumers will know if you buy a Nitro Elite shoe, this is the best foam, this is perfect for race day, and then Nitro is really, really good. It's going to be better than the competition.
That leads us nicely into highlighting some different models, because down here we're just about to launch Magnify 3. We're a little bit behind, maybe about a week or so.
Cool.
Now Magnify 3 is quite different from Magnify 2 in lots of ways. I guess the end use is the same, and we're about to see Nitro result as well. And I'm guessing can you talk about that? Can you talk about that? I guess it's out.
I can a little. That was so many shoes. I was wondering if you were if you knew about the result, but yeah, basically and let's just, for simplifying, Result and Magnify are very, very similar with a few small tweaks. Mostly one is a mesh upper and one is more of a knit upper. But yeah, very, very similar to the previous, which was incredibly well received with the Magnify. It is that max cushion neutral shoe. Sometimes I actually think it maybe is even the best shoe in the line. And when people are like, what should I get? I'm like, just get a Magnify if you want a little bit more cushioning. It can also do everything, kind of like a Velocity. But yeah, the result is very similar. And I think what's really, really good, pardon me, the design team kept a lot of the geometry when it comes to the outsole pretty similar to the previous. The foam did get a little spec change and a little upgrade, and that takes us about 15 grams lighter as well. And then yeah, for some retailers having the mesh, but most people will be getting the Magnify, which is the knit version. And I just think compared with as we look at like a Velocity, which is more of an engineered mesh, having a knit option just gives a little bit more stretch, a little bit more comfort for that customer that's, I mean, maybe running, but it's not a go fast shoe, right? It's really about that maximum comfort versus just a breathable engineered everyday mesh. So I think both of those actually fit and work really, really well side by side. And sorry for not having a Magnify sample at home. I'm a little bit more into this guy with the engineered mesh personally, and we have a lot of shoes at the house, but we don't always bring everything home. So
No, Sparky thought I was a little bit mad ranging both Result and Magnify, but there's a clear kind of consumer difference. I feel like that Magnifies the perfect Monday shoe, that easy long run shoe, and that Result if you need to do a little bit of a barn run or pick up the pace a wee bit. It's just a little bit more responsive or peppy. The foam just responds a wee bit better, doesn't compress so much, not quite as compliant, and you can kind of get it going. The tighter fitting upper just hugs your foot more at that kind of pace effort rather than the easy. So he was like, "Do you really need both?" And I was like, "Sparky, you're trying to sell shoes, bro. Just trust me. Just I'll sell them. We'll get through them."
Yeah, and they're very, very similar. I will say the result has a little bit of a shank in the midfoot, which isn't anything crazy, but it gives it just a touch more like support. And the people that love to do the midfoot shoe bend test, you're not getting that there. Yeah, result not the biggest global focus for us, but it's actually one of my go-tos right now without question.
And I haven't written it down, but I've been really impressed at velocity. Now I kind of poo-pooed that because, it's 220 New Zealand or 230 New Zealand and whatever. But we got a pair in Boston, and I've used it we've got a hill here in Christchurch, which is kind of like a loose gravel, and I do a lot of my cross-country hill repeats up there in that velocity, and the grip is great, we know that, but the midsole material is actually, it's kind of slightly more stacked than you think, but not overstacked, so you get a little bit of forefoot flexibility, which is so nice to climb in, and you sort of that sort of 4 to 7% gradient. It's been fantastic.
Well, and I'm sorry, I gotta biasly say I think this is also just a completely beautiful shoe. Like
It is,
the color,
it does
the
look nice.
detail
Yeah.
of the execution, and I'm usually more on the specs than on the aesthetics, but I'm like, wow, taking you to dinner later, Velocity. So what I love great about this is the previous version, we did still have kind of 2 layers of foam. We had a little bit firmer, version of our Pro Foam at the bottom, and then Nitro on top for cost and for manufacturing reasons. And the team really, really pushed towards having the one-piece Nitro. I was actually one of the people saying, wait, Velocity 3 is one of my favorite shoes. Like, I really love it. It feels even a little bit more stable. But we were able to give more of the good stuff, more of the Nitro. It's a little bit softer, a little bit more bouncy. We're still at 36 in the heel and then 26, so a 10 millimeter drop. So it's not light, but I really agree with you. I think the flexibility and lightness of it, it is that everyday workout horse, but you can also go a little bit faster in the velocity maybe than the previous. So I have to hand it to the team. We executed something beautiful, and I mean even the little details of a jewel tip on the tongue is just fire.
There's some good stuff going on in there, and that's a part of the market that we shouldn't abandon in terms of those sort of lighter weight, flexible sort of daily trainers, because not everyone wants 40, 45 mil stack, 6 mil, 8 mil drop, stiff forefoot, rocketed toe sprung kind of shoes, right? We need to make sure we're catering for everyone, but you'll get me ranting. I want to dial in on Fast R3 because that is the flagship shoe, right? Like we saw Project 3, we saw a number of people in Boston and London really executing race plans, and I got to say the kit, the clothing was absolute fire. You could see them. We were standing about a mile from the finish, and every time someone came around that kit, it was like just bedlam on that corner. There's noise everywhere. It was pretty cool, man. The marketing team did an amazing job at executing that. Those sort of marketing things. But for the people listening, I was privy to some of the info. I don't know how much you can share and how much I'm allowed to say, but how they came up with it was incredible with, sort of AI and stuff. So can you talk through what you're allowed to around the Fast R3?
Yeah, we can tiptoe, but also give people, I think, some of the ideas of the insights. One of the other challenges that I was thinking about, to throw it back, was even in the original Fast R1, we actually had a few plate breakages as we were going through samples, and we were really, really close to the end, and ended up kind of reinforcing that. And I think this shoe worked well. I think what happened was then, because we saw some durability when we went to Fast R2, it then got maybe a little bit overbuilt. We had the brand new foam that's been in Deviate Elite and is in that. So the new Alphac TPU Race Day Nitro Elite was amazing and it was dialed. But I think the shoe in general was maybe a little bit more beefy than it needed to be. A wider plate, a wider base. There was an extra sliver of foam in there that was like weight, and there was the heel spoiler. So yeah, what the team did was basically use I mean, I don't know about AI, but humans, but using kind of a computer generated version of figuring out how to make the best and fastest super shoe. And we were able to basically identify which parts of the shoe weren't being used and take those away, and then the areas where there was a little bit more pressure and performance, to maybe optimize the plate to distribute the force more evenly or get even a little bit more propulsion. So this was literally a big science project. One of my favorite facts as well is we went through basically like one prototype, like basically what we got from the insights and analyzed and digitally in some ways was basically a perfect shoe by the time it went out. A few small slight adjustments, but yeah, really spit something out good. And basically what we did was Fast R2, which was people ran, Pat Tiernan ran 207, 208. We had a lot of really strong performances, and that we basically delivered the same cushioning, the same propulsion, and the same performance at 90 grams less. So we went from 265 down to about 170 grams. I guess that's 95 grams, which is just unbelievable and awesome. And I'm so thankful for the innovation team pushing boundaries. I mean, we knew we wanted the shoe to be lighter and could we make it like a little bit faster, but to have it so well optimized. And it's not us saying it. Like if you read the UMass study and some of that stuff, in UMass, the lead author, lead researcher at UMass, let's say, is the same guy that did the Nike 4% paper that basically validated Fast Start at 3 to be over 3, nearly 3.5% more efficient than the best super shoes from the top competition. So we know this shoe performs really well, and we're so happy to be at the forefront of the industry in the race day space.
That's pretty cool. It's crazy to see some of those guys come through at 205, 206 pace and just hissing, and then the ladies coming through just flying around those corners. Amazing atmosphere.
If I can say one more thing too, I couldn't agree more with you that our marketing team, and there's too many of them to name. I mean, Luke was the key guy on the Project 3 situation. But what I loved about it was not only, okay, we have the shoe with sports science, we did the research, and then they were publishing basically at the same time to say, hey, we know it's super fast. But then instead of people saying, well, does it last? This geometry is kind of new and unique. Does it work? Does it not work for somebody? We had invited basically these 200 runners, 100 in each race, to be part of Puma and join this program. But then at the end, if they chose to race in the shoe. And we gave them that first access. So instead of saying, hey, here's a new shoe, the lab says it's better, nobody's run a marathon in it, it's here's the shoe, 180 people have finished a major marathon in it, and I think 69 of the 180 that finished set a new PR. And most of those people was a new PR in the marathon by over 3 minutes. So it's not just, oh, it works, there's some PLM on a podcast saying blah, blah, blah. It's people in local communities that have new PRs in Puma and in Fast R3.
Nice. Last shoe question in the road shoe category anyway.
Yeah.
Stability. Now, it's kind of like the forgotten naughty brother in the last 3 or 4 years. And we're seeing brands pulling out old school shanks, wedges. We're all going to this wide sort of net-based geometry through the midfoot. We're trying to get clever with midsole flaring, and now we're seeing, I guess, with you guys and another brand trying to mix 2 different densities of materials into the one cellular mold. Where does Puma sit in the stability sort of category, and how do you guys feel like that's going to progress? Because in my opinion, not to put words in your mouth, but in my opinion, that's going to be the next great leap of how we start that. And it's only 15, 18, 20% maybe of the market that needs something a little bit more than what we're offering right now, but it's still 20%. If you can capture 100% of 20%, you'd probably do it okay. So where do you see sort of, I guess, your forever run product and then that category?
Well, Oscar, maybe I just got the next great insight, and maybe I need to write a brief, and maybe you need to send me the notes, and we can get it going. I mean, that is sometimes how it happens. Look, from the very initial launch, we've had a stability shoe. We have the Eternity Nitro. Innovation team actually worked on what turned out to be the Forever Run, and that's been around. If you walk down the street and you say to people, "Hey, who's Puma? What do you know about Puma?" you're going to hear maybe a lot of Usain Bolts. You're going to hear maybe a lot of track and field. I mean, we know we're at the beginning of this road running journey. Puma has 70, almost more than 75-year shirt. It's 76 years now of history and heritage. A lot of that in and around speed and in and around track and field. So it makes so much more sense for us to be focused more on Deviate, something like a plate, that's speed. And that's one of, when we were talking earlier about brands that were maybe doing well or not, and how do you get best in class, and then how do you put your own spin on it. The Puma spin on things is speed. It's who we are. It's what we do extremely well, and it's our homeland. So we need to stay there, and it's comfortable, and people will feel good and maybe expect that from us. Stability is absolutely a big segment of the market. You said it. It used to be big. It used to be maybe too big because I think a lot of retailers and some people were even over prescribing it, or people will come in and they say, oh, you have to have X stability shoe, and maybe they didn't need it, maybe they needed a different insole, who knows. So stability went bigger, but it's coming down, but it's not going away. I think the Forever on Nitro that just launched the beginning of this year is doing really, really well for us. There are maybe some extensions on the product line, or some things that we could do. But I think our point of view is to really, really focus and win on speed, nail cushioning. Everybody likes and let's say could even need a cushion shoe, that's clear. The stability is a little bit more tricky, so we want to have that offering, and I think the Forever Run satisfies that in a really, really good way. Does a few things a little bit different. You mentioned kind of the dual density nitro, etc. But I think it's not right now a big area where we need to focus. We need to continue to win, and we're doing that right now with speed. So let's keep going.
Nice, good answer. There was a politician's answer. That was fantastic.
So Puma has. Oh.
Sorry.
Puma has also entered the trail running space. Can you tell us a bit about that decision, and for you personally, was your experience at Tarawera here in New Zealand any way influencing your work?
Yeah, great answer, or great question. Yeah, what great answer. So the answer is probably also pretty similar to the previous question, where we're still somewhat new in the space. We need to win in road running. That needs to be our priority. Not only are more shoes sold there, but Puma's, let's say, somehow more authentic in that space. We don't have a history of trail brand. We don't currently have trail athletes. So it's not our focus, but our athletes, our road runners, our marathons, our mollies, our etc. They run in trails too, right? Like trail running is a healthy, a great activity. It's a great way to get out and see nature. That's probably why I do trail running and explore different things. And so we have great rubber, we have great midsoles, we can put together a really good shoe and build an upper. So we wanted to have a small considered trail offering to be able to address that. And I mean, yeah, Tarawera. Well, actually, Oscar, maybe you need to tell a little story. Let me pass it over to you, because you tell me if it was second or third that your buddy Sam Cloud something came into your store. When I was there, you told me a little story about how you recommended him a Puma shoe for his amazing trail run. Do you want to tell that one real quick?
Yeah, well, he's a Puma athlete now, so that worked out well. But I mean, the Puma Grip's so good that Sam Harvey, he was ran the assist on the Backyard Ultra world record 2 weeks ago, where he had some Mag Maxes on, I think. But he was second. He was on the podium anyway with a pair of Elite version 2s on at Tarawera. So the grip does the job. So I think you've got the heritage piece there to make that work. It's pretty impressive. But to be fair, he's an animal, so I think he got away with one, but it's pretty impressive.
Well, I mean, my favorite thing was seeing it later on IG and being like, wait, Puma got what second? How do I not know who this person is? And then meeting you and being like, no, we tried ASICs, we tried other brands, and the shoe actually fit and worked. And I mean, it was that formula. It was Puma Grip, it was Nitro Elite, and I think our trail range. I mean, Fast Track is a little bit lower profile, pretty good. Voyage is kind of the new. Sorry, so many shoes, including some of my personals. So this is the new Voyage. That's one piece nitro, really light, really, really grippy. This will launch in I think maybe another month or so, like late August, maybe early September. But yeah, this is my current favorite go-to trail ultra. I did a do you guys do feet or meters for elevation there?
Doesn't matter. We can work it out.
Yeah, well, I did a like a 45K with almost 14,000 feet of gain in
Oof.
Austria in this guy last weekend, which is weird. You're like, wait, that's really steep, and it's like, yeah, I almost couldn't run any of it. So it was a nice long hike. But no, the grip is super dialed. I really appreciated the softer cushioning, so this is good. But in summary, like trail is just not going to be a super huge focus for us right now. We have the shoes for people that want them, and for our athletes. And I mean, some of them are really, really good. One of my others, so I run too many ultras, but I finished Istria in Croatia in this Deviate Elite trail. Literally my pair with Croatian mud still on it. But this does have kind of a carbon composite and has been getting a lot of excitement online as well. Sorry, carbon fiber, but it's a little bit more flexible. So we have good trail shoes. They work. They have super foam, some of them, and some of them are more good and regular. But I think yeah, we'll leave that where it is.
The we sold the Elite Trail really well. We got through a
Cool.
decent amount on the back of, I guess, some of what Sam's done, and then people just wanting that sort of like responsive, slightly more flexible, but still fun. A lot of our trails down here, and this surprised Dan and Aaron actually. So I'm bouncing around, but in our
Yep.
store, we're almost 50-50 road to trail.
Wow.
Because of our, I think it's like 47% trail, 53% road, and that's in Peerage. So, and
Yeah,
it's a lot, it's a decent amount,
that's crazy.
because of where we're situated in the world. And I think for you guys having that Voyager 4 coming, everyone who has enjoyed a Magnify and
Yeah,
goes, geez, I'd love a Puma trail running shoe, you're now selling
exactly.
2 pairs of shoes, like without much persuasion. You think of all the
Yep.
Magnifies we've sold, which is in the hundreds, they're going to go, oh, okay, I'll buy this one. That's great. So I think there's some really easy wins, especially for maybe this end of the world, but not, I guess, for Europe too. There's trails on the doorstep of many of the
Yeah,
great
no, I
cities.
mean, you said it better than I could have. Like Voyage is basically a Magnify with trail tread and a little bit more toe protection. So yeah, I mean, even like some of the way the plate, this is actually the componentry for the Elite where we have more of a cup sole and then the midsole drops in on top. And the plate that's inside there is a little bit more flexible, and works
Yep.
a little bit more easily. So yeah, we have some good things, but that is a very high percentage of trail shoes. I didn't realize you were doing that much. That's good business.
No, I did tell Aaron and Dan that they were surprised too.
Yeah, yeah, of
And then
course.
Sparky's eyes lit up as they only would on Sparky. Yeah.
Of course.
Sweet. If you were to create the perfect shoe rotation for different types of runs using only Puma shoes, what would that selection look like?
Yeah, good question. It's tough. I have all the shoes. I have prototypes. I mean, if yeah, sometimes I don't even post that much to Instagram and things because or LinkedIn because if I was to share something, it would be the future version of something, and living so much in the future, it's always hard, and I try to remind myself and everybody to come back to the present when we have really, really good shoes. I mean, I think my rotation, and I think about this sometimes if I have to go to an island or deserted island. For me, actually, Deviate 2 was probably my favorite shoe ever. I love that it had that kind of slight plate. It had a little bit more kind of rubber to it, like a little bit more lug that you could do on road, off road. So that's maybe my all time favorite shoe. It has definitely a special place in my heart. If I had to build a rotation, for me or for other people,
For you.
for
For you.
for me, um, yeah, that's tough. I mean, and I can pull up kind of what I have because I was a little bit somehow prepared maybe. So where to start? I mean, I still think velocity is just a nice go-to. This is V3. The V4 is just as good. I like to do sometimes a few days in Mag Max. But actually what I'm doing is very limited Mag Max and then balancing it out sometimes with just wearing something super, super thin and light. So this is the Propio. but I still find myself trying to go not so much to the extremes and find something nice and sweet in the core. So yeah, that's where Result has had a huge place in my rotation recently, and then Voyage, and I go there. And then the last thing, and I think sorry, because it is the fastest shoe in the history of the world, I think nobody's rotation could therefore be complete without this. So I last weekend was sorry, marathon and ultra 104. For 105, I'm doing something that for me is very personally inspiring. Moving to Germany, I'm not gonna run the Berlin Marathon. I'm gonna run the perimeter of the Berlin Wall. They call it the Mauerweg. So the perimeter of the Berlin Wall is 155K. The race is a 100 miler, and it's mostly on road or maybe some gravel. And one of the things that I'm working on personally from a project is, can I run 160 kilometers in this guy? I would be willing to bet almost nobody's gone further than a marathon in it. But the shoe is so fast, so efficient. Your heart rate gets slower. You use less calories. That's one of my personal projects to see in the next month, if I can get really adapted to run extremely far. But I would say my rotation, it has to have this in it. It has to have it.
That's a pretty solid rotation, man. And
Too many shoes.
you've probably just curved the last question for today in around not getting too far into the future. But is there one product or two products that you're sort of most excited for customers to see in that front half 26?
Yeah,
Might have a
it's a
four
tough
in
one.
front of it.
Exactly. Well, you nailed it. I so look, we talk a lot internally on about getting into running, being consistent, as I've said so many times, with Nitro, and that means deviate, and that means velocity, and deviate for more up tempo and speedy types of runs, and velocity for just everyday comfort and performance. And obviously retailers sell some and not others, whatever. But that is really the core of our range, and we're really settling into this nice cadence of every 12 months. In spring, we want to have a deviate. We just launched deviate. In fall, we want to have a velocity. Velocity's coming now. And we really want to get people to use to, hey, it's a new year. I want to get my new shoe, and it drops on a nice cadence. For Puma to be able to be, let's say, a good business partner with somebody like you, so you can plan your inventory, but then consumers to even get used to, hey, Puma's going to have a major launch. They're going to have two a year. They're going to have one every 6 months, and they can really know that and look forward to it. And I think even just to put a bow on all the things that I've been talking about being best in class and then being consistent. It was really fun and crazy to be on stage and say, this is the Velocity Nitro, but it's Velocity Nitro 1, and I promise you there will be a 2 in a couple of years, and a 3 in a couple of years, and a 4 in a couple of years. And it's somehow, of course, very validating to have that next product. But just to try to be able to be better partners, continue to take that feedback and just really listen and grow is it's gotten us here, and I feel really good. We're in such a good spot. You're talking about growth, and we definitely want that to continue. So yeah, that's my plan for 2026, is to be really consistent, guys.
Nice. And I can lay an Easter egg and say I have been running around with something at the 4 in the end of it, and it's unreal. I'm not going to say what, but it's unreal.
I put something in the mail to you with a 3 at the end of it the other day too. So we keep going on prototypes, but we're getting way too cryptic now.
Nice one. Okay, man. So it must be almost midnight your time.
It is time to call it a day. But is the sun up there? You going for a run? What's your plan?
I got a nice little 45-minute jog this morning, and then a 45-minute jog tonight. Anna's going to go and run the company because that's what she does.
Well, somebody's got to work. Are we still recording, or are we off?
No, we're still recording, bro. Yeah, we're still recording, but I can cut it. Yeah.
No, you can cut whenever, because I was just gonna say I'm actually tomorrow officially starts my parental leave as well, and that's why
Nice.
I was actually really happy to fit this in. I mean, I know we've been bouncing around back and forth for a little bit, but no, really happy to spend the time with you guys.